Welcome to Off the Record, a legal podcast.
Hello and welcome to Off the Record, a legal podcast with Rhett Burney, an experienced attorney serving families across the upstate of South Carolina. For more than 30 years now, Rhett has guided clients through divorce, custody, estate planning, and probate. And in many of those cases, he's helped people find solutions through mediation instead of a courtroom battle. My name is Kevin Rosenquist, and today we have a special guest. Her name is Anna Tarbert, and she is going to talk a little bit about how mediation works, when it makes sense, and why it can be one of the best tools for keeping peace in your family and your finances. Rhett, Anna, welcome back. Good to see you.
Thank you, Kevin. Kevin, you did not introduce Anna properly.
Well,
Around here, we call her Mean Anna because in the courtroom, she is a bulldog. But we do like to mediate cases because we do find that that's probably results in a better outcome for all people involved.
absolutely. And Kevin, it's good to see you again.
Thank you, Anna. Good to see you as well. A lot of people I feel like they've heard the term mediation, but I'm sure a lot of people don't exactly know what it means. We've talked about it on this show, but in case someone stumbled upon this and hasn't listened to previous episodes, first of all, I encourage you to go listen to those. But how would you describe mediation to someone who isn't familiar?
Absolutely. So the way I describe it to our clients is this is the perfect opportunity to have a say-so in the outcome of your case. Because if we don't settle at mediation, we're going to put these issues up for a judge who may give you a full day to hear everything about your life, and then they'll make a decision. So mediation is the time where you get a little bit of that power back. We can be creative in coming up with solutions and different offers to send over to the other side to try to settle all of the issues in your case before we just turn it all over to a stranger for them to decide what you're going to be doing for potentially the next 18 years of your life.
And I think another thing, because Rhett and I have talked about this before, that I think people get wrong about mediation is there's no judgment in mediations, correct?
So what I tell people is the worst thing that happens at mediation is we all go home. Best case scenario, we come up with an agreement and everyone signs it. But even then, it's not a legally binding document until a judge signs off on it. So best case scenario, we settle your entire case and we need a final hearing to approve that. Worst case, we all go home.
Do people, I would imagine people are pretty responsive to that because that sounds better than sitting through a trial.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And especially whenever they hear how much a trial does cost, they're more likely to come to the table and want to try to settle it.
And a trial's a crapshoot if we get down to it. You can try the same case in front of every single judge and get a completely different answer. And nobody knows a case as good as the participants in the case. And so Anna and I've tried cases together and we get rulings and sometimes they're for us, sometimes against us. And then we hear the judge's reasoning and what they picked up on. It baffles us sometimes. So it is a pure crapshoot. And we always encourage clients, if it can be, get it worked out because you keep control over the outcome of the case. Mm-hmm. And you care about your case more than anybody else. And you put it in front of a judge who is a stranger in a black robe, and I promise you, they do not care about your case as much as you do. So if you can control the outcome, whether you like all of it or not, it's better to get it resolved.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a requirement in South Carolina to at least attempt mediation?
It is. So all family court cases have to mediate before we can request a final contested trial.
Okay. And are there certain cases, like I know you guys handle probate, other civil disputes. Is mediation required on all of that stuff?
It is in civil court.
Okay.
It's not in probate court. And, I handle a lot of mediations for a big box hardware store across the country. And so, a lot of these states, they're encouraging mediation as well, especially in pre-suit mediation. So, mediations are recognized as being very successful. I would say our success rate,
94%.
Yeah, 94% getting cases worked out at mediation because it's the one time during a case that everybody comes together for the purpose of a resolution. All the other times you come together to fight things out. And so we find that people are, for the most part, reasonable and want to get it worked out. There's some cases that just can't be because of the facts, but for the most part, it happens. It happens.
And I think, you mentioned pre-suit mediations. We're seeing a decent amount more of those. So essentially, a pre-suit mediation is where the parties will go to mediation before anyone's even filed. So that way, they can try to reach a full agreement before they even file the action to get started. And that really cuts down on litigation costs and expenses whenever we're starting with a full agreement. So we're seeing a lot more of that, which I think is a positive step.
Yeah, it sounds like it. You kind of you touched on it a little bit, but can you describe how the actual process works? What should someone expect, on the day they're heading for their mediation?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, mediation takes place at a neutral site. There is a neutral mediator who has been hired by both of the parties. And myself and my client will be in one room, opposing counsel and their client will be in another room, and the mediator will bounce back and forth. Every now and then, mediators like to put couples together in the same room. I'm personally not fond of that. I don't ever think it ends well. I actually have had it end very badly before. So it's a rule of mine that I don't ever do that. But usually the mediator will go back and forth and take offers between one side and the other to try to reach a neutral middle ground. I always say you're not going to leave mediation 100% happy. And if you leave it slightly happy but slightly upset, we probably have a pretty fair agreement.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you that because I feel like, people could worry that it means either giving up control or that you have to concede, and perhaps the divorce was not exactly pleasant, or the last few years of the relationship may not have been pleasant. So do you have to kind of help people see the process differently?
Absolutely. I think we have to put it into a perspective that they understand, because a divorce or even a custody battle is not one size fits all. Everyone's case is different. So adjusting those expectations to the facts of their case is really important. Sometimes people get so wrapped up in this idea of I have to win, I have to win. But what does winning really mean to them? So it's important
Right.
for them to be able to define that for us.
Yeah, the winning. That's a very good way to put it. Like, what does winning mean to you? And how important is it for you to get this when we could maybe work this out if without it or something like that? But I feel like, people get dug in to opinions that shouldn't even matter, much less something that's as big as, a divorce.
Absolutely. I once had someone fight over a blue lamp for 2 hours. And by the time we had settled the blue lamp issue, for what they had paid us, they could have bought 8 lamps. So I, had a very hard conversation of, is the lamp really worth it?
I hope people watch just that part, if nothing else, because honestly, that's a kind of a microcosm of what we're talking about, isn't it?
It will not change anybody, even if they
Okay.
see it. We see it all the time. People will spend thousands of dollars over a $50 TV.
And it's for the principle of it. It's
It's principle, yeah.
nothing more than just either to upset their spouse or to just feel like they've won.
Obviously, emotions are running high, in these cases. If we're talking specifically about divorce or custody matters. Do you find it hard to keep discussions productive and respectful with people?
It was sometimes, but I think people, they want to work their case out because they know that the case is hard. They know it's costing them money. They know it's going to cost them a lot more money if we have to go to trial. It's not unusual for us to walk in the very first round as a mediator because I mediate cases. And even our clients say, well, there's no way we're going to get this worked out. They're never going to agree. I'm never going to agree.
Mm-hmm.
And those are usually the ones that we get worked out, the ones that
Absolutely.
everybody says we're not going to. But I think for the most part, people, we just told you the percentage of cases that get worked out. So yeah, I think people want to do it, even though they may not act like it.
And I think another thing that's important for people, especially given the area of law that we practice in, is they just want to be heard. So mediation allows them several hours to tell their story. And so even if they compromise on certain things, if they feel heard, that oftentimes help kind of lower that guard that they have. Because at the end of the day, all they want is for someone to hear them and validate them. And so if we're able to give them that, we tend to see a little bit more movement on some of the bigger obstacles that we're facing.
And to me, that seems like a check in the column against putting the couples in the same room, because
Absolutely.
if you hear the person saying it, it might just grate on you, right? Like you might just be like, oh man, no, I'm not giving that up. But if you hear it through a mediator, hey, this is just, a mediator is going to soften it, probably change the tone. You're not going to hear it the way it was said. And so another reason not to put couples together.
Another thing I think people should know is that mediators, and Rhett knows this because he mediates cases, mediators have confidentiality. So if I look at Rhett and I say, hey, don't tell the other person this, but here's what my bottom line is, or here's how I'm really feeling, Rhett's under an obligation to keep that confidential.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for any mediator across the board. So there is some protection built in for you to have a very open and honest conversation, knowing that that's not going to transfer into the next room.
And also something Rhett and I have talked about, which I found interesting, was that if mediation does not work and it does go to trial, that everything that happens in mediation is not admissible at all in the court proceedings, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's all confidential. It's as though nothing happened that day.
Mm-hmm. Is that something that I would imagine that helps quite a bit in getting people to maybe be a little more honest during mediation?
I think so. And it also allows people to be more creative with their offers and feeling as if they can negotiate with different pieces of their case, knowing that it can't come back and bite them later.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the other side can't say, well, she was willing to do this at mediation if we go to a trial. No, that conversation essentially never happened. So I think it gives people a little bit more freedom to be able to negotiate a little more openly than they would.
And when I'm mediating cases, I stress the fact that it's confidential and tell the people that we're not mind readers. Their lawyers are not mind readers. So if there's something on their mind, let us know what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Share it with us. It helps us through the process a little bit because people will tell us what they want, but if we don't really know why they want that, it can slow the process or even stop the process in its tracks. So the fact that the conversations are confidential, other than never being able to bring it up at a trial, it does help the process move along. Otherwise, you never get anything done.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And are there situations maybe where mediation is just not the right fit, not something that should be done? I realize that it kind of they have to try, but are there some situations where it's like this bad boy's going to trial regardless?
Yeah, there's some cases like that. And we know, but we have to just go through the motions. We may not be there very long, but there are just certain cases, termination of parental rights cases, things like that.
Relocation cases
Where there's no middle ground whatsoever. We'll go through sometimes we get those worked out, but we know going into it's going to be very difficult because it's a no-win situation.
Yeah, those are probably our hardest ones walking into, that we know it is an all or nothing kind of situation. So the success rate on those is probably a little bit lower.
Yeah, I would imagine if it's that big of a deal, then it kind of changes things. When you kind of, when you first suggest mediation, people are like, no, I don't want to do that, or you tell them that we have to do it. Do they kind of soften once they know kind of what this could mean for them?
In my experience, yes. I think mediation scares a lot of people at the beginning because they don't know exactly what to expect. But once they start kind of understanding that this is their opportunity to take some power back, I think that empowers them to want to settle. But I'm interested to hear Rhett's perspective because he actually mediates cases. So he has a different perspective than I do.
Yeah, I think Anna brought up a great point earlier. People want to be heard. And when they have this forum, they're sitting in there pretty much with someone who's acting as a judge. They can't make, mediator can't make a decision, but they can be a sounding board. And I think that people they just like to have that from a psychological standpoint, an emotional standpoint, because let's face it, a lot of these cases, they're not built on facts, they're built on emotions. And if they can diffuse that a little bit, I think it helps get them to where they need to be.
Sometimes it also helps people to have that neutral third party tell them what they think, because it's our jobs representing a client to be their biggest advocate. So they are always right. Everything they want, is important. And the same goes for the other room, where the neutral mediator can kind of step in and say, okay, let's put this into perspective here. Like, yes, what you say matters, but here's what's actually probably going to happen. And sometimes they need that unbiased third party to step in and just reiterate what we've been saying, but say it from a different point of view.
Yeah, because we are the advocates for our clients, so we tend to take their side. And when you have a third party, the mediator, come in and see the facts from a new standpoint and give us their opinion of how it impresses upon them, it helps us makes us better lawyers, but it also helps us advise our clients to say, you know what, maybe we saw it the wrong way, or it also can help solidify something that we've already told our clients. So they get mad at us sometimes because we tell them what they don't want to hear, and they need to hear it. And I think it helps solidify what we've told them we think is going to happen when it comes from someone else who's hearing it for the first time, which is exactly what a judge does when you have a trial.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Except the judge won't listen to all of your emotions and feelings. They're going to tell you to speed that along.
Very good point. Very good point. How do you prep people for mediation?
My biggest thing is I tell them to make a list of what I call the non-negotiables. So what is going to make you get up and leave the room and say, you know what, we are done here. If you can put those priorities in a list for me, then I know what is most important to advocate for. Now I try to make them be realistic, right? Like if it's you want everything in the entire world and you want your spouse to move to Jamaica and never be seen again, we're not going to get that. So I ask them to have a really difficult conversations with themselves to find out what is the most important thing for them and what are they willing to go to trial over and what maybe are they willing to give on.
Yeah, and I have my clients think, can they be wrong about the position they're taking? They need to ask that question. Can they possibly be wrong? Of course, the answer is yes. And if they are wrong, why could they be wrong? And how can someone else coming in for the first time see it a different way? Because we all think we're the best parents. We all think we're the smartest people. We all think that we've got the best case. But if we're not able to step back, and we can't get our clients to step back and realize, you know what, you may not have the best case, and here are the reasons why. And if they can think through why they may not have the best case, I think that helps them get to the end a lot easier. Because it's not unusual for everybody to walk in our office and think they're the best at everything. And
Sure.
And unfortunately, that's just not the truth.
No.
Maybe one of the reasons why their marriage hasn't ended. Everybody never goes to me.
You're like, I'm no therapist, but.
So it adds an element of honesty, of internal honesty, that I think helps them get over that psychological hump of agreeing with the other side, because these walls have been built up, and they don't necessarily want to feel like they're giving in. But if they can realize that maybe they're not right about it, it helps them get to that point where they may need to be.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I think that's really excellent advice. All right. Well, thanks for listening to Off the Record, a legal podcast with Rhett Burney of Rhett Burney Law in Simpsonville, South Carolina, and of course our guest Anna Tarbert. If you want to learn more about family law, estate planning, or how mediation could help your situation, visit rhettburney.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave us a review. We very much appreciate it. Anna, Rhett, as always, great to see you guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.